The end of the year is upon us once again, and as it's become an annual tradition for my channel ever since 2020, it's time to count down the top 10 best and worst hit songs of the year, and we're starting off with the worst list. Today, we're talking about the top 10 worst hit songs of 2025. Man, the charts of 2025 really felt stagnant. There were so many songs that were on the Hot 100 in 2025 for a very long time that were really more last year's songs, and feel like they stuck around for a lot longer than they should have. Maybe part of this is due to the fact that Billboard made the bonehead decision to have the Billboard year end in October instead of the end of November like it's supposed to, and cause more 2024 releases to be on the 2025 year-end list. But I can't blame that entirely. There were so many songs that were kept in heavy airplay rotation and on repeat 2025 that were still on the charts well over a year after the release. I am aware that songs carrying over into the next year and making 2 year-end lists in a row happens every year, but it really feels like 2025's year-end list had more than usual. There were 20 songs on the 2025 year-end list that also made the 2024 year-end list. Yes, 20, which I believe is the most carryover songs of any year-end list. Not only that, but of those 20 carryover songs, 7 of them made the top 10 of the 2024 list, and of those 7, 4 of them were top 10 hits this year too. Lose Control, the number 1 biggest hit song of 2024, was also the number 4 biggest hit song of 2023. That song was on the Hot 100 for over 100 weeks, and if it wasn't for Billboard changing the recurrency rules in the fall of this year, it would probably still be on the Hot 100 right now as we be recording this. And of course, that's even putting aside the Christmas music that makes the year-end list every year now. Even if the Billboard year ended in late November like it's supposed to, most of the carryover songs would still be here. As such, the Billboard year-end Hot 100 lists slowly feel less and less like the reflection of the most popular songs of the year, and just a result of whatever popular songs were artificially boosted by Billboard's rules. But they're the only widely accepted list of the most popular songs of each year, so I'm still using them as my basis for the eligible songs for the best and worst hit songs of the year. Hey, on the bright side, cutting out 1/5 of the list makes my job a little easier since I don't have as many songs to listen to. As always, only the songs that debuted on this year's year-end list are eligible, which leaves me with 80 eligible songs. So don't expect any of the 20 songs that also made the 2024 list to be talked about in this video or the best video. Go check out my previous top 10 best/worst hit songs videos to avoid any spoilers for songs I talked about there. And finally, this list is just my opinion. Don't get upset at me if I put a song on this list that you like or my ordering doesn't match yours. Let me know in the comments what your worst hit songs of 2025 are. Okay, enough rambling. Let's talk about what the top 10 worst hit songs of 2025 are, starting with number 10.
I guess I'm the problem, and your meds never do no wrong if I'm so awful.
Starting this list off, we have an artist whom I have talked about before, but on my best hit songs list. Morgan Wallen's song One Thing at a Time made my best of 2023 list, and I Had Some Help with Post Malone made my best of 2024 list. And if I were to remake my 2020 and 2022 lists, Chasing You and You Proof would have definitely made those two lists respectively. I'm a lot more forgiving of Morgan Wallen's music than I know many other music critics are. I've never really minded his country trap production or his lyrical content. So why am I talking about a song of his on my worst hit songs list? Well, this song definitely makes me understand why a lot of people don't like his music. While not absolutely horrendously atrocious, it is only at the bottom of this list. I'm the Problem definitely showcases all the worst aspects of Wallen's music and amplifies them. The song sounds a dour, almost depressing sort of feeling to it, with its key and pedal steel. I get that maybe this minor key sound was intentional given the lyrical content, but it still makes the sound feel a little too downbeat, and not in a ballad sort of way. The production may not be as grating as some dour hip-hop songs I've talked about in the series before, and this sound can work in some circumstances, but I don't really think it works here. But then we get to the lyrics, which is where the song's biggest problems lie. It's a post-breakup song where Morgan Wallen is deflecting blame for his relationship failing on his partner. In the first verse, he asks why she even fell in love with him in the first place, and then turned around and said he was the worst thing. Then in the chorus, he says that his ex is Miss Never Do Wrong, which... okay, obviously nobody's perfect, but sarcastically saying, well, I guess you've never done anything wrong, just feels so condescending and a red herring from his own problems. And at the end of the chorus, he says, if I'm the problem, well, you might be the reason. This just feels like victim blaming, or like he's acting like he's not the one responsible for his own shortcomings. Yeah, it's not my fault that I was such a bad person in this relationship, it's your fault. The song's lyrics do emphasize that this partner keeps coming back, even despite saying he's a bad person, and yeah, she's not blameless here, but deflecting all blame on your ex is just such an egotistical move. At least nothing about the song's sound is grating. I do think the song is more mediocre than outright bad, and in another year, this wouldn't have made my top 10. But suffice to say, I do have some problems with this song.
Ooh, that's so true.
And here Here we have another acoustic back song where my issue is more with the lyrics and how the song actually sounds. Honestly, this isn't a song I thought I would dislike all that much before hearing it, and while I've talked about far worse songs in my worst hit songs list, and we'll be talking about some even worse songs after this, That's So True is a song that definitely left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Musically, I don't really have any complaints. It's a folk-tinged pop song backed by an acoustic guitar with a decent melody. Not super duper catchy, but one that you could sing along to, at least not as dour instrumentally as I'm the Problem. However, it's the lyrics that really sink this song for me. It's a post-breakup song where the protagonist is still feeling bitter about being dumped. Not too bad on the surface, but when you actually read the lyrics, you realize just how condescending they feel. The protagonist repeatedly insults her ex, talking about their dumb face, calling them an idiot, and saying that she hates her ex's new partner too. These lyrics feel so immature and petty, sort of like a teenage girl's diary entry. And maybe that's what I was going for, but it still doesn't make the song good. Also, Gracie Abrams is 26 years old, the same age as me. Hearing a 26-year-old woman singing things that sound like something a girl half her age would write in her diary just feels childish. Bet you're thinking she's so cool, but I know what you know and you're just another dude. Heck, even the song's title, That's So True, feels like something you'd expect a teenage girl to say. Oh my gosh, that's like so true. I can understand blowing off some steam after a breakup, especially if her partner dumped her instead of the other way around, but the way these lyrics just wallow on, and even mention how she wants to go and warn her ex's new partner about him, just make her feel she's being petty and can't move on. It sort of reminds me of I Hope by Gabby Barrett, both in terms of the key and lyrics. And at least with that song, you could argue the protagonist's feelings of animosity toward their ex were justified, since it is outright saying in the song that the ex cheated, and that is a rightful reason to feel pissed. But That's So True isn't a revenge fantasy song or anything, it just feels pissy and whiny. The most we get about what the protagonist's ex did to them was that they hurt them and made them cry, which is so shallow and surface level. You know what else is so true? My dislike for this song.
Somebody who loves me in the building. Somebody who feel me in the feeling.
We're at our first trap song on this list. Those of you who see my previous top 10 worst hit songs list would know that I really don't like most mainstream hip-hop / trap. It's always the most represented genre on all of my worst hit songs lists. Although I will say, 2025's worst list is definitely the most diverse in genre. It's not all hip-hop here like 2024's list was. I mean, I did just talk about a country and folk pop song on this list, and like the two previous songs, Somebody Loves Me is a song that I would consider to be more mediocre than downright bad. In another year, this probably would have just been a dishonorable mention at worst. At least the song leads more to R&B than most trap does, which makes it feel more melodic and interesting listening wise than most of the trap songs I've talked about before. But of course, it doesn't completely escape the shortcomings of trap. The generic trap beat is still here, and then we got the auto-tune singing from Drake and Party Next Door. And like several other songs I've talked about in my worst hit songs list, it makes me wonder why the song is even a duet. Either of these two performers could have handled the song alone. Then again, it probably wouldn't have done as well if Drake wasn't on here. He helped Party Next Door get his first Billboard year-end hit. And as for the lyrics, I do appreciate how it's not a song about bragging about your wealth, doing drugs, and shooting people like most mainstream hip-hop. But there is some ego here with lines like, thought my exes was bad, but you finer. Yeah, throwing your exes to the curb sure doesn't sound narcissistic at all. There's just something that feels egotistical about the way the song is written. A song about wanting someone who loves you is typical for a love song, but the way it's framed here makes it seem like you just want to get laid, or need someone to brag about, not like those other girls you kicked to the curb. Although the line that makes me cringe the most is, I'm in her panties trying to get all in her crotch. I guess you can't have a trap song without having at least one sex line. Still, I could have certainly done without that image in my head. And then there's that outro with a female voice saying how a guy is not celibate because of having 1 week breaks between sex, which, yeah, that's true. That outro does feel a bit disjointed from the rest of the song, and I don't know why it was added. So yeah, this song also has problems, but as far as bragging trap songs go, you could definitely do a lot worse. It certainly wasn't Drake's worst hit song of 2025. Hint, hint. One thing that made 2025 a notable year for music was how huge K-pop Demon Hunters was this year. It's far from the first time a song from a musical soundtrack has charted on the Hot 100 or been a year-end hit, but I believe it's the first time that an entire soundtrack made the year-end list. Yes, all 7 songs from K-pop Demon Hunters made the 2025 year-end Hot 100 list, which is pretty impressive. Unfortunately, not every song from the movie was great. And, well, yeah, I'm talking about one of them on my worst hit songs list. How It's Done is hands down the worst song from the film. It's also kind of a shame that the film's worst song is also its opening song. It's trying to go for a brash, EDM-inspired sort of K-pop sound, similar to Kill This Love by Blackpink. Unfortunately, that's not the side of K-pop I gravitate toward, and this leaves the song having a bit of grating production, mostly with those high-pitched whirring synths on the post-chorus, reminiscent of an EDM-esque breakdown, and there's other high-pitched synths on the verses as well. An accurate way to describe the song would be blaring, but that's not a good thing here. There are EDM breakdowns that don't sound obnoxious, but unfortunately, the one on How It's Done isn't one of them. But it's not just production that rubs me the wrong way. This is one of 2 songs on the soundtrack, the other being amazing takedown that contains rapping in addition to singing. And while the rapping here isn't incompetent, it does fit with the song being super in your face and badass, which is fitting for a song that introduces the band Huntrix and them being demon hunters. It's not really my cup of tea. At least with Takedown, the rapping fits better since that song was trying to sound like a diss track. Plus, the production of that song didn't sound nearly as grating. I'll say this though, this is the most competent rapping of any song that will be making this list. Wait till you hear the songs higher up on this list. I do see the appeal of this song, and I can understand why some people might like it, and I certainly don't think it's absolutely horrendously terrible. I just personally don't like it. Now, don't think me talking about the song here means I dislike K-pop Demon Hunters or its soundtrack in general, because I don't. In fact, stay tuned for the best list, where I'll be talking about some real highlights of the soundtrack and movie. Even a good musical film can have at least one stinker, and this is unfortunately one of them. Again, wait for me to get to the best list. You know, I don't hate Tate McRae. I put You Broke Me First as an honorable mention on my best hit songs of 2021 list. And plus she's Canadian, so I obviously have some bias towards her. However, putting aside my Canadian music bias, none of her other hits have been anywhere near as good as You Broke Me First. Her other two hits on the 2025 year-end list, What I Want with Morgan Wallen and Revolving Door, were both decent, but not top 10 bestest songs list material. However, Sports Car certainly is top 10 list material, but not top 10 best list material. And yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm choosing it as one of the top 10 worst hit songs of 2025, I really don't like this song. What's my issue with the song? Well, first of all, we got this super high-pitched squeaky synth that plays on the intro. It's not the most obnoxious sound I've ever heard in a song, but it still grates on my nerves. Not to mention the instrumental melody is really limp, and the drums feel too heavy for it. The song is trying to go for a very sexual, erotic sort of feeling. It sort of reminds me of Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, except without any of the pop disco sound that made that song good. Plus, we also got Tate McRae on that chorus doing a whisper rap. Seriously? I thought we left whisper rap behind in 2005 with the Yang Yang Twins. This whisper rap, which is on the chorus, so it's the part of the song you're supposed to sing along to the most, is hands down the worst part of this song. I guess the whispery vocals were supposed to make yourself sound more breathy and sexual, but I'm sorry. Tate McRae can't pull off sounding sexy. Again, Espresso also had breathy vocals to make the song feel more sexual, but Sabrina Carpenter wasn't outright whispering them. I mean, Tate McRae's whisper rapping isn't as creepy as how the whisper rapping on Wait the Whisper song sounds, but it still doesn't flatter her at all. Also, despite this being a sex song, the You Got a Sports Car title lyric is clearly a reference to backseat car sex. McRae never actually swears in this song. It feels like she's trying to make the most sanitized sex song possible, just explicit enough for teens and adults to see the double entendres, but not explicit enough that it couldn't be played on mainstream radio. I'm not usually one to advocate for swearing in songs, but I feel like the song should have had an explicit version, because this feels like the clean version, except it's the only version to exist. I sure wish I had a sports car, so I could drive away from this song when I hear it.
Is it Stacy? Is it Becky? Is it Keisha? Is it Andy?
And here's the other song from Drake and Party Next Door's joint album, Some Sexy Songs for You, to make the 2025 year-end Hot 100 list. Hey, at least this one is just Drake by himself, though this does make me question why Drake didn't save the song for his own solo album. Although he does reference Party Next Door in that chorus. But that's before we get into the song itself, which, I mean, it's a Drake song on one of my worst hit songs lists. I don't know what you were expecting here. It's a generic trap beat hip-hop song with Drake's typical droning voice and lyrics about hooking up with girls. I mean, it's far from the worst song Drake's ever put out, but still bland and dull. If there is one thing that does make the song stand out just a little bit, it's the Nokia ringtone that's sampled and is played throughout the song. Not only does that fit with the song's title, but it also fits with the lyrics about girls calling your phone, as Drake describes on that chorus. That's a little clever, I guess, and makes the music at least more fitting for a song with phone references than Cali's Area Codes from 2023. But that still doesn't do much to help the song's quality. First off, that chorus is insanely repetitive with "Who's calling my phone?" repeated ad nauseum, and then the second half asking which girl's calling you. Is it Stacy? Is it Becky? Is it Keisha? Is it Annie? Then about a minute and a half into the song, we get a beat switch, and the song basically becomes a completely different song in that part. Like Life is Good with Future from 2020, these two separate parts of the song feel completely disjointed from each other, and I don't know why Drake didn't just have these be two separate songs. Maybe he had both parts half-baked, so he just decided to throw them together into one song, and in the second part of the song, he basically just asked his partner to dance for him. Also, I love that Drake says, "How many hoes in this club?" and then 2 lines later says he doesn't mean to call her a hoe, as if he realized it sounded like he was calling her a rude word, and then had to clarify, no, I'm asking if there are any other girls who are not you that I'm calling a rude word, which just feels awkward. And he also says, "I got drinks, jokes, sex, and cash," as if he's trying to make the song check as many rap cliches as possible. Honestly, there isn't much more I can say about this song. Again, it's far from Drake's absolute worst, I'll take this over Way Too Sexy any day, but there's still not much to like about it. I'm certainly not calling for this song to play.
Boy, mad at you. I had to get back at you. I had to get back at you, yeah.
Like I said before, my worst hit songs of 2024 list was nothing but hip-hop. That being said though, if you're wondering what my choice for the worst non-hip-hop hit song of 2024 would be, it's Wild Ones by Jesse Murph featuring Jelly Roll. Mostly for Jesse Murph's high-pitched voice, which doesn't complement Jelly Roll's gruffer voice, or the country trap production. That song would have been somewhere within the number 16 to 20 worst hit songs of 2024. But I can say that Jesse Murph's 2025 hit Blue Strips is even worse than Wild Ones. Once again, we're graded to Jesse Murph's high-pitched nasal voice, which definitely gets grading the more that you hear it. It's the kind of voice that sounds like it was pitched up, even though it wasn't. This is how she actually sounds. But the other thing that makes the song even worse than Wild Ones is the production. Like that song, it's a trap-inspired fusion, except it's a pop trap song instead of a country trap song. And at least Wild Ones didn't rely on that same old trap beat I've heard in dozens and dozens of other trap songs, and at least Wild Ones didn't have such bragging lyrics to it. Yeah, as is typical for pretty much every mainstream hip-hop song, Blue Strips is a song about bragging about one's wealth and material possessions with some vengeance sprinkled on top. I know I complained a few songs back about That's So True not being a revenge fantasy song, but at least it would have felt earned there. It's not earned here. It's pretty much just Jesse Murph bragging about buying a mansion in Malibu, performing at a strip club, and implying that she's gonna get down with the girlfriend of the boy she's singing to. She says in the chorus that she's not mad at him, but in the same breath says that she had to get back at him, and later that she'll die to settle scores. It may not be outwardly angry, but still very passive-aggressive, and like That's So True, just feels so petty. Also, like That's So True, it never goes into exactly what this past ex did to make her want to get back at him. So it doesn't even try to justify its bragging or revenge. Not that there is any justification for this endless bragging or thirst for vengeance. Honestly, the only thing keeping the song from being even higher on this list is the fact that it tries to be more of a pop rap song than a straight up trap song. So there is some actual melody here. But that's about the only positive thing I can say here. Jessie Murph may not be mad at her ex, but this song sure makes me feel, well, not quite mad, just mildly irritated. Let's move on. Kind of funny that an artist with the word bad in his name has the third worst hit song of the year. I already spoke about Bad Bunny in my worst list last year, as well as 2022, where he had a triple appearance on that list, or 4 if you count the dishonorable mention. And well, Bad Bunny had 4 songs from his 7th studio album, whose title I'm not going to butcher by attempting to pronounce, make the 2025 year-end list. Now I'm actually going to be honest, I actually didn't mind the other 3 songs from the album to be hits. I didn't think any of them were great or anything, they were just middling, but at least I didn't think they were outright bad songs. But this song? Yeah, I definitely disliked it when I first heard it. EOO, not trying to pronounce that, is another sterile reggaeton song containing Bad Bunny's bored, droning voice. Considering this is a song about dancing in the club, it sure doesn't make me feel like dancing. It's yet another song where the singer sounds completely checked out, and like he woke up and recorded this in the middle of the night. Bad Bunny sounds so drowsy here, especially after the beat switch. Oh yeah, like Nokia, this is another song that has a beat switch, and sounds like 2 separate songs stitched together. You know, as someone who remembers the club boom of 2009 to 2011, I remember when songs about dancing at the club were actually upbeat and made you feel like dancing. This sterile reggaeton production feels so lifeless. Neither those melodic percussive synths in the first part of the song, or those beeping synths that sound like something you hear in a Game Boy game, make the song feel fun or evoke enthusiasm or desire to dance in the listener. At least not me. Oh, and I'd be remiss in not mentioning some of the lyrics. First, there's "Bring your bestie and we'll take both your panties down." Does Bad Bunny want to have sex with 2 women at once? Does he want a menage a trois? Oh, and then there's "Girl, you're fit, I'm gonna lick those abs." Yeah, licking a girl's abs isn't sexy no matter how fit she is. Not sure if that's supposed to sound sexy in the Spanish-speaking world, but in my English-speaking culture, it isn't. Also, he repeats his own name, as well as Tiny, the producer, several times in the intro, because that sure doesn't sound egotistical. He even says, "I don't need to brag, you already know," before doing what sure feels like bragging. Not sure if I call this Bad Bunny's worst song, but I definitely don't like it. Next.
Bitch, I'm from Memphis, what you know about me? Big G-L-O-N-A-G-L-E.
Yeah, there was no way this song wasn't gonna make the list. I've talked about both these rappers in my worst list before. Heck, Sexy Red had the penultimate worst hit song of last year. I had a pretty strong feeling this song was gonna make the list before I'd even heard it. And yup, I pretty much knew what I was in for with this one. What You Know About Me sounds like pretty much every other trap song I've criticized my previous worst hit songs list. Dour minor key production, the same old trap beat, bragging and sexual lyrics, 2 rappers when there could have only been 1. I will say Glorilla is a competent rapper who actually has a decent flow, and even Sexy Red's performance here is better than it was on Get It Sexy last year, as it feels less nasal. But that's just about the only positive thing I can say about this song, because the rest is just generic trap that doesn't do anything new or interesting. Honestly, I'm struggling to come up with anything else to say about this song, because it's just that generic. It's not even bad in a standout way, or does anything uniquely terrible. It's bad in a boring way, and it doesn't leave any sort of impact on me. I've heard dozens of trap songs that sound exactly like this one, and I'm gonna forget about this in record time. I guess the fact that it doesn't actively grate on my nerves might make it a bit better than some of the other trap trap songs I've criticized. I will say this isn't quite as bad as some of the other songs I chose as the penultimate worst hit song of the year, but it's not as bad as these other songs really much of a compliment? If it wasn't for the fact that I'm talking about in my worst hit songs of 2025 video, I wouldn't pay any mind to this song at all. And if it wasn't for the fact that I try to make me talking about each song on this list roughly the same length, I could have summed up my thoughts on the song in 2 sentences. So forgive me for rambling on and not really saying anything new with this song, but that's because the song doesn't give me anything new to even say about it. If my words are sounding repetitive and generic, it's because these trap songs are so repetitive and generic. Just about everything I said about countless other trap songs I've discussed in these worst hit songs list applies to what you know about me too. You wanna know what I know about you, Glorilla and Sexy Red? I know that YouTube made a generic trap song that checks the box for just about every single cliche in the genre, does nothing at all to stand out, and resulted in one of the worst hit songs of the year, though not quite the number 1 worst. Now, this is the point where I would say, but before we get to number 1, let's go through some honorable, or in this case, dishonorable mentions. However, if you could believe it, my list of contenders for the worst hit songs of 2025 was pretty small. I only had 12 songs on my list of contenders. Maybe because of how many songs that were also on the 2024 list, not as many bland or grating hip-hop songs debuted on this year's year-end list compared to last year. So I don't even have 5 dishonorable mentions to make up a dishonorable mentions section this year. So yeah, no dishonorable mentions this time. Although if you are curious what those 2 other songs on my list of contenders that didn't quite meet the top 10 are, they're No Pull by Don Toliver and Loco by Ned and Vega. You can consider those 2 to be dishonorable mentions if you want, since they're the number 11 and number 12 worst hit songs of 2025 respectively. But now, let's talk about what the number 1 worst hit song of 2025 is.
Sticky, 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 bitches get sticky, sticky.
Okay, I'll be honest. In another year, this probably wouldn't be the number 1 worst hit song of 2025. It would likely still make the list, it just wouldn't be the number 1 worst hit song of the year. But this year, I wasn't left with a ton of bad options for the worst list. Like I said, I only had 12 songs on my list of contenders for the worst hit songs of the year. Hip-hop is always the most represented genre on my worst hit songs list. However, not as much hip-hop made this year's year-end list as it has for the past few years. Well, at least the bland or grating trap has dominated hip-hop since the mid-2010s. In a year that had more of those, the entire bottom half of my top 10 this year probably wouldn't have made the top 10 worst at all, and this song likely wouldn't have been number 1. But in a year where I didn't have as many other viable options to choose from, I could see that Sticky is the song that debuted on the 2025 year-end Hot 100 list that I enjoyed listening to the least. I mean, the fact that we got the same 2 rappers as we had in the penultimate worst song of the year wasn't a very good first impression, but then when we listened to the song itself, man, this song is obnoxious. The high-pitched whistling melody that starts this song already puts me off, but then we get the title lyric, "It's getting sticky." Yeah, this is definitely rapping the same person who rapped, "Get it sexy, get it sexy, get it sexy" last year. But of course, this song also had Tyler the Creator and Lil Wayne here. Yeah, never mind having 2 rappers when it could have just as easily had 1. This song has 4 rappers. And believe it or not, I'm not even sure Sexy Red is the most annoying rapper here. Do you want to hear Tyler the Creator's castrated voice? No? Well, too bad. I think it's trying to sound like Pharrell Williams here with that falsetto, but I'm sorry, it doesn't sound good. And truth be told, Pharrell doesn't always sound good with his falsetto either. Thankfully, Tyler the Creator does drop that falsetto after the first verse, but the fact that he still used it here at all is obnoxious. Almost as obnoxious as all the clattering percussion, and even sounds like a wailing siren. I mean, it's not nearly as obnoxious of a hip-hop song with a wailing siren as David Banner's Play, but it still didn't need to be here. The production does get a little less obnoxious sounding in the second half, thankfully. I actually don't think those horns or snare drums sound bad, and the very ending of the song where we hear a piano and Tyler the Creator singing as opposed to rapping actually sounds halfway decent. But that still doesn't forgive the fact that half the song is the worst sounding music of any hit song of 2025, and this song is 4 minutes long. I guess all 4 rappers need some time to shine here. Glorilla is technically the best of all 4 performers here. Like I said, her flow is decent. I'll take her over Tyler the Creator's ear-grating falsetto, or Sexy Red's nasal vocals, or Lil Wayne, who's utterly unremarkable here and makes the least impression of all 4 rappers. At least he didn't actively annoy me like Tyler the Creator or Sexy Red did. Again, why did the song have 4 rappers again? What did that accomplish that Tyler the Creator couldn't have handled alone? I guess you could say chart success, because this ended up tying for his highest charting song on the Hot 100 at number 10, but it's not like the song is so good that it needed a remix version to give an extra boost in popularity. This isn't a remix that was released later. This is the only version of the song that exists, containing all 4 rappers. Oh, and I haven't even gotten to the lyrics beyond the title lyric. And, well, it's a modern mainstream hip-hop song. Take your guess as to how complex or original these lyrics are. Oh, and that chorus is so insanely repetitive. Again, it's getting sticky over and over again. And then we had the other part of the song in the second half that repeats, better find a mop, it's getting sticky in this B, ad nauseum. When you can't come up with any original or interesting lyrics for your hip hop song, I guess just copying and pasting the same phrase over and over again works too, right? This is hands down the most lazily written chorus of any hit song of 2025. I guess it is sure to be sticky, because repeating it so much is sure to make it stick in your head, but for all the worst reasons. Well, this song stuck with me alright. In fact, as a special honor, I've decided to stick this song at the top of my worst hit songs of 2025 list. Hey, at least I have some good things to say about this song, which is more than I can say about most of the other songs I chose as the number one worst hit song of the previous years I've covered. Again, 2025 didn't really have that many awful songs to pick from, and in a worse year, this might have been safe from being the number one worst hit song of 2025. But this year, yeah, it had to be this one. Now I need to figure out a way to unstick this song from my head. And that's the top 10 worst hit songs of 2025. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the best video. Till then.